transfer to green ammonia. Green ammonia, methanol can use for shipping for the very big carrier. And I think in the future, hydrogen and green ammonia used for transportation and another very, very important in near future. Okay, so because we have some information here, and I want to talk for conclusion. Vietnam also is not small country, more than 100 million population, and very huge market out of China. So now is a very good opportunity for the G7 company, G7 country to invest in Vietnam. So because we have a very big view for the young generation, for 20 years, after 20 years, we will become the old country, old generation. So that I hope young generation students to think, to study for renewable energy. That is one of the most important in this decade and in this century also. And we create a lot of jobs and a lot of benefit for the country. And we also have a planning together with the university to training education for the manpower in future, because we lack of the manpower in the future for this field. Thank you for everybody, and if you have any questions, please comment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hua. Of course, I think that he's leading to the second speaker as well. I think that he can keep this, but I think that I'd like to introduce him a little bit. You can read on this, but I think that I just want to read a few first slides about our second speaker, Mr. Pham Nam Phong, who is the founder as also the chairman of one of the leading solar energy company in Vietnam, and then providing a lot of solar infrastructure for industrial companies as well, and also a few other initiatives that he has. He's also holding a bachelor degree both in business and economics as well as technology. So I think that he can speak on both of that aspect for you today. So I think that with that, I would like to introduce our second speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your introduction. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, especially students from RMIT University. I used to be the industrial advisory board in RMIT in 2016, and we have the two solar charge stations in your campus in 2015, something. And happy to be here today to talk to sustain the city with rooftop solar. So very quickly, I founded the rooftop energy company in early 2009, 15 years ago, and we keep continuously develop until now. We with a different solution for solar, and but especially today I will present you the good solar solution for city, and open some idea for you all to study more on this industry. I start my presentation with the concept of climate change. You see many media, many news regarding this recently, and you look at this data. You see, for 100 years, we increase the carbon emission from 2 billion tons to now over 36 billion tons per year. And you see what happened with this. This is impact to our planet. And we have no action. It's basically going up. Just just like I see in Australia, some action already, and it's going a little bit down. And, it's good, but most countries in the world is still going up every year. And what happens? I just need to use two examples. We experienced last month, in July 2022 or 2023, the record of global air and ocean temperature. You see, it's very hot, right? Especially those who live in the central of Vietnam. You see the decrease, the temperature increase up to 40. And what you see, it increased to 42. You cannot stand up that temperature. So that's why the whole world is trying to change it. To keep it going slower and reduce. So that's why Vietnam commit to net zero. It's very ambitious goal. It's different than the carbon neutral. The carbon neutral, which still can reduce carbon emission, but net zero, you're going to destroy the carbon emission. And you see, in July also, you see in China, especially Beijing, it's really rain in many cities and provinces and destroy the city. So this is caused by big impact from carbon emission. And to reduce, okay, I give you a number. 93% of the carbon emission in the city coming from energy and transportation. We are using energy. Yes, this is carbon emission. When you motorbike, this is that is carbon emission. So 93%. And to eliminate or to reduce the carbon emission, very important, we need to transition the energy from traditional to renewable energy, like wind and solar. Is the best way, especially for not only for Vietnam, but also for all over the world. And in Vietnam, many policies and programs issues encourage the development of renewable energy. Okay, you can see the resolution number 55, the master plan of the Nordic development has been approved. Just energy transition partnership, this is very good term. I think you all here quite strong with this. But this is the kind of program to support country transition to renewable energy. And the first three countries that receive this support is South Africa, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So you know what the number of Vietnam will receive for this program? 15.5 billion USD in different ways. And we are trying to get that as soon as possible and to fasten the energy transition in our country. And the latest is resolution 98. We are living in Ho Chi Minh City. And we, Google company, also support this support program in two special policies there. One is the rooftop solar for Ho Chi Minh City, and one is carbon neutralization program. So if this resolution approved by our National Assembly, we have to the support to policy there. And they already approved. So it's very important for Ho Chi Minh to make many pilot programs for to transition to the energy, especially renewable energy. Here for Ho Chi Minh, so you see high potential. If only Ho Chi Minh we can develop 5,000 megawatt peak for solar. So we plan where he said, okay, wind is good. Yes, I agree. But rooftop solar is much more simple. And we can invest, we can install, and we can zoom without investing big money to like transmission line. So Ho Chi Minh City, 5,000. And this kind of system can be applied any kind of group. So you can apply in your home, car park, factory, your compass, don't waste your wood. So when you cover with the solar, a lot of benefit, and one of the benefits that is you cool down your building, your home, very important. And as yes, as I mentioned, no pressure on national grid. And you see, in Ho Chi Minh City, the emission right now is around 57 million tons. But energy is 57. And traffic, in transportation is 36. So we all here, every day, we are emit the carbon dioxide to the planet. Many policy, and I think I'll not go on this, but you will see in September 2023, Ho Chi Minh City did a lot of programs, especially all the building like government administrative office and the public sector will be like the role model like rooftop solar, and we will see. And many programs like Little Wu also just telling you, we will try like to do pilot city. For example, Canberra, there is no traditional vehicle. If you go to Canberra, you have to use electric vehicle. I think there will be the next program. It means we will make Ho Chi Minh City as a pilot city to reach the goal of like carbon reduction by many ways, but the two big ways is rooftop solar for mostly the building, and the package is 50% of the whole roof for residential and office building, can be defined in the PDB page to cover solar. And the other is transition to electric vehicles. Um, what is the technology we apply? Yes, we say we have the automation and we have OCAD platform to monitor. So it's very simple. For you, you can study very fast of this. Vietnamese company is now very professional on these kind of things. Just in the last 3 5 years, and here with the solar solution, we can combine it with electric vehicle with this one, hydrogen. And you will see in the near future, there will be electric vehicle, there will be hydrogen vehicle with no emission in the air. And we can do this, we can expand this solution to invest many car parking with this idea to supply the electric to electric vehicle. And last one, I can say that people very like react very fast with the difficulty. So the most difficulties of the transition is the finance. So people not really want to spend a lot of money, $1 million for the group to invest in solar because it's quite new. So their model where the corporate, the investor like us, to cooperate with them, we invest, we build, we sell cheaper electric to the factory. For residential, you can have like green credit program to invest the rooftop solar for your home. And the last one, we can sell the energy certificate when we invest for the renewable energy, and this will support a lot for the the factory owner or the homeowner to gain. Not only we make the better like carbon reduction for the country, but also we can earn money with this. Okay, I want to hear more questions from you in the final section. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Phao. I think that like it's very much enlightening regarding the presentation of like coupling between the solar rooftop as well as the EV and so on. I think that like it's introducing this nicely to the next presenter as well. So I would like to invite Professor Mati. He's professor of AI and electrical engineering at the School of Engineering in IMIT Melbourne. So you can read his profile, but of course I just kind of summarize that like his interest is more on the complex system and also how that like can apply the AI and machine learning and complex system into the sustainable energy issues. So I think that like, with that I would like to bring as Burkhard mentioning now is the kind of like the user phrase and then the user part. Professor Marty, please can you start your presentation, please?
Thank you. And do you hear me? Is it clear, my voice? Is my voice clear? Do you hear me? Unfortunately, I can't share. It seems that you have to unshare so that I can start sharing. Okay, it seems that it's working now. I don't know why I can't choose this. Let me try again. Yeah, it worked this time. Is it working? Would you please confirm you can see my screen and also hear my voice? Is it good?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, and thanks for the invitation. My talk today is going to be on the demand side, as we also said in the beginning. So the first two talk were on the supply side, which we don't have that much choice. So supply must be renewable, and we know that must come from wind, solar, that these are the cheapest, but in the future we might have wave energy, or geothermal, that kind of new forms of energy if we can make them as cheap as wind and solar. But the first, let's see the emissions. So we also saw it in the other talks. This shows the emission per capita, and as you see, Australia is here. We are one of the big polluters in terms of per capita. Vietnam is sitting around here, similar to Indonesia. Something like 1/4, 1/5 of what we produce in terms of emissions in Australia per capita. But we must be zero emission by 2050, and that's where we need to do a lot in order to reduce the emissions. So 80% of the emission in Australia comes from the energy and transport, with transport being responsible for about 20 to 25%. And from that, more than 80% comes from road transport, whereby electrification, we can do a lot. So we have only two choices, either use hydrogen and fuel in terms of fuel, or electrify the transport. Hydrogen is not there yet in terms of economy and also the safety issues, etc. It's not there yet, but electric vehicles are available and we can easily electrify the fleet. But there are some challenges, and today we're going to see some of the challenges. Let me just show the type of emissions that electric vehicles might have. Here I'm comparing this is not my result actually. I've got it from this the source, and I'm comparing the emission of electric vehicles with conventional internal combustion engines. In two kind of cases where the EVs are charged from the grid, that we know that the grid is not yet completely renewable, and when they are completely charged from renewables. You see that even if they are charged from grid, which in Australia it's about 70% renewable, it's still the emission, the lifetime emission is much less. We know that in order to manufacture these EVs, the emission is more. The battery manufacturing is producing lots of emissions. We know all that kind of things. But the lifetime of the vehicle, the emission is almost 1/3 of conventional cars. And if you can charge them from renewables, the emission is going to be very, very, very low. And we see that the uptake of EVs are increasing. Last year it was just 3% in Australia. This year it is becoming 10%. It is predicted to be about 14%, 13.6% in Vietnam. So these are just a result of market push and also policy push, at least in Australia, that we are experiencing. But as I said, it is extremely challenging. This is the Australian case. We have about 20 million motor vehicles in Australia. If we just consider a quarter of them to be electrified, and their battery size is about 80 k, and they need once a week charging, which can support something like 400 to 500 kilometers during that 1 week. The charging requirement is going to be 400 gigawatt hour per day. Our consumption, total consumption, the average consumption is just 250 gigawatt hour. So this is huge compared to what we consume. And we know that public transport, buses, heavy vehicles, trucks, usually we need to charge them more than once daily. And if you consider all of them, it is going to be huge. So by electrifying the whole transport sector, we will need huge amount of electricity. And we know that in order to meet zero emission, we not only should have more electricity, but they should come from renewable sources like wind and solar. But they might also have some significant consequences in the to the energy market. Here in Australia, we have wholesale electricity market where retailers buy electricity from that wholesale market and they distribute it to consumers. So if you don't do EV uptake and EV adoption carefully, this might push the wholesale prices up, or even it might introduce some challenges to the grid. We've seen that sort of challenges for the PVs. Australia is really leading developed nations in the uptake of PVs. We have about 30 to 35% of our households, they have rooftop PVs. But this is challenging for distributors. We know that if we have PV and excess generation of PVs, it starts exporting to the grid. Grid can't accommodate that. Originally, the grid has not been designed to be two-way system. So when you inject power to the grid, if it is more than something, then we experience some voltage rise in customers. And this is something that the grid operator should avoid. In order to do that, they have to invest in grid elements, and that investment must come from somewhere. In Australia, usually they just directly pass it on to the customers. That means that the energy cost from the grid side, the network cost for customers is going to be more expensive. This has happened to PVs. If we don't do something for EVs, this will happen to EV as well. That's why we need to have coordinated charging management. Lots of optimization needs to be done when we support EV uptake, increased EV uptake. Another example, for public transport electrification in Victoria. So recently, Victorian government has decided to have all new buses from 2025 to be electric. So within the next 10 to 15 years, they want to have all the fleet to be electrified. So there are about 4,000 public transport buses in Victoria, and if you consider just the 500 kilowatt hour electricity charging, daily charging for each bus, there is going to be 2 gigawatt hour daily consumption for these buses. Our peak consumption in summertime in Victoria is 9 gigawatt hour. 9 gigawatt. And in winter it is 7.5 gigawatt. So if we just charge all these buses at the same time, there is going to be huge pressure. Current thinking is that they're going to be charged during nighttime, and then the buses will be driven during daytime. But it has two problems. First problem, the electricity, the nighttime electricity still come from fossil fuels, and we don't have cheap we wouldn't have cheap electricity in 5-10 years during nighttime. But the daytime electricity is usually cheaper in Australia because of the solar and excess generation of solar. The second problem is when we have huge consumption during nighttime, there'll be another peak during nighttime, and that's another problem. So we are going to see wholesale price changes. Some vulnerable customers might be disadvantaged. Lots of different problems. So we really need to have good charging management. This is something that I think all countries, including Vietnam, should consider when they are supporting rollout of electric vehicles. Charging must be managed, and that can be done through different mechanisms. I'm going to show one example here. The problem is even more serious for private EVs. Usually, you drive your EV, when you're home, you want to charge your car. That really coincides with the peak electricity consumption during afternoon time. So you're going to have another peak introduced by cars. That's another thing that we have to just consider and manage when we support the rollout of EVs. Here I show a study that this is a trial, so real data, supported by Australian Renewable Energy Agency and done by one of our retailers, Origin Energy. It's one of the big retailers here. So they introduced some incentive. They wanted to see whether we can manage the charging by introducing some sort of incentives. And the incentive that they introduced was they introduced 10 cents per kilowatt hour of charging to your electric vehicle in the off-peak period. So the peak period that they wanted to reduce the charging was this from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. that usually we have the afternoon peak consumption. And you see that this is the baseline where we had 30% charging. By incentive, incentive dropped to 10%. So that really works. The customers respond to these sort of price incentives. Again, they introduced another kind of incentive. They wanted to see whether customers are willing to give control of their charging to the retailer, and whether that retailer can curtail their charging between these from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if they did, they gave some more cash incentive to customers. And again, compared to the previous experiment, we see that from 10% it is reduced to 6%. So customers participated in it. So these kind of incentives are positive. So we have to use the combination of the price incentives, sometimes a combination of forced incentive by the grid. That there is another study here in Australia that they are using some forced decisions by the grid. The combination of all of them should provide better options. So we have to use lots of optimization things. So what I said about electric vehicles, all problems, but electric vehicles can also introduce opportunities. The charging infrastructure, we know that is a problem, and the charging infrastructure needs to be invested. Usually here in Australia, as government is investing because there is no big business yet for that. But at some stage, there's going to be more more and more businesses starting to invest in charging infrastructure. So we have to always careful about the impact on the grid and have good policies. Recently in Australia, the government has introduced pretty good policy in order to support uptake of EVs. I'm pretty sure that Vietnam government has also is started working, or I'm not that much aware of what is happening there, but I'm pretty sure that there should be some good policies to support the uptake. But EVs, as I said, they also provide opportunities. Here in Australia, just to accommodate the rooftop solars, we think that we will need about 10 gigawatt hour just home batteries. Much more is needed for grid scale batteries. Then we have solar, then we have wind power. We must have huge and large scale storage systems in order to support the continuity of these renewable power. But EVs have batteries, so they have battery on the wheel, and we can have V2X, or we call vehicle to everything, vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, vehicle to load. So we can discharge our vehicle and support the grid. We can discharge the vehicle, support the load. But V2X needs to be studied more to see whether V2X is really economic. When we do that kind of things, the battery might degrade, we might lose some value, but there is a big opportunity to use a V2X in order to support the grid. This is a big opportunity, but there is a lack of understanding by distributors on the impact of V2X, and we are currently working on these sort of things in order to really understand how V2X can be used to support the grid. We did a small project pretty recently, and we identified the risks and opportunities of V2X. The grid integration is a big thing for EVs. You have to be careful about grid integration. Battery management is another key to support V2X and to support good uptake of EVs. You really need to have good optimization about batteries, otherwise our batteries will degrade fast, and it is not environmental. That will involve cost and also environmental impact. And another big thing that the community needs to work is standardization and interoperability. So you really need to have infrastructure that is interoperable. Something has started in the US and EU. They want to, for example, introduce standards for chargers, and they want to have Tesla chargers as standard chargers. These sort of things will be introduced into the market very soon. So just to summarize, EVs are great to decarbonize transport, and I think they are the only viable solutions. Electric vehicles, e-scooters, electric motorbikes, especially for Vietnam, I think electric motorbikes are pretty important. But they will impact the grid. So we really need to have good charging solutions, good charging management. Something like workplace charging, for example. I know that in Vietnam there are lots of motorbikes, and people use electric motorbikes. That usually they drive their motorbike to workplace. They can charge their motorbike while walking. And the other good thing is that when you have too many solar panels in the rooftops, daytime you're going to have pretty cheap energy. In Australia, sometimes you have negative prices during daytime. So if you use the energy, you'll be paid. So it is a very good spot in order to charge the vehicle, and then you can use it to charge it back to the grid, to support the grid, support the houses whenever needed. So there are opportunities for the EVs as well. But this is pretty interesting, and I think we're going to hear lots of things. We're going to see lots of improvements about EVs within the next 5 to 10 years. Last, I'd like to thank my team, the Electric Vehicle Living Lab. These are my postdocs working on different aspects of this EV grid integration. And our vision is to support full electrification of the transport, but at the same time to keep reliability, security, and affordability of electricity supply under control. Thank you.
he also have a lot of play part on this area. So please, Bob.
All right, thank you very much. I'll make this very quick, but I want to just make 3 remarks, and these are kind of by the nature of questions for our panelists and for the people in the room. So, firstly, on the supply side, addressing Mr. Fong and Mr. Kwan, if he's still in the room, I think he's gone out. Wind and solar power are great. Okay, they are really good in terms of their environmental footprint. But the scale of the challenge facing Vietnam in terms of its electricity consumption increasing by 5-fold, that's what the Power Development Plan says, 5 times to, close to 100 gigawatts. Okay, that is a huge challenge. And so you've got to look at other sources of energy as well, other sources of renewable energy. And there's 2 which we don't hear talked about very much, one of which I think has a lot of short to medium term potential, and the other which has a huge amount of potential, but only in the long term. So the short term potential is wave power. Nobody talks much about wave power. It's been mentioned a couple of times this afternoon. Look at the coast of Vietnam. Okay, enormous potential there. Technologies exist. They're not quite yet economic, but they're moving towards being economic. Wave power is perhaps where solar power was in the late 1990s or something like that. And so it could start becoming economic very soon. Vietnam's then got a huge opportunity in terms of wave power. That could actually be combined quite nicely with a lot of offshore wind projects of the sort which Mr. Twan's involved in. Secondly, looking much more to the future, there is the possibility of nuclear fusion. Now, be very clear here, I'm talking about fusion, not fission. So the sorts of experiments which are happening in places like Fermilab and CERN about combining atoms to generate nuclear energy. These have enormous potential with very few of the side effects in terms of long-term radioactive elements, which current fission processes have. They're also much safer. Now, these aren't going to come to fruition for 15, maybe 20 years in terms of commercial viability. And then if Vietnam is smart, it doesn't want to be in the first wave of people, first wave countries who put in fusion reactors. They probably want to wait for 5 or 10 years and let some richer countries make the mistakes first. But still, looking at 2040, 2050, huge potential there. So I'd just like to get your comments on that. Now, secondly, in terms of electric 2-wheelers, very nice presentation, Professor Bahi. I just want to add kind of a little bit of context from the Vietnamese perspective. So I think you said that there were 20 million vehicles in Australia. In Vietnam, there are around 62 or 63 million motorbikes alone, okay? And then in addition to that, there's maybe 4.2 million cars, maybe 0.2, 0.3 million vehicles, 0.2, 0.3 million trucks and lorries and that sort of thing, okay? So clearly motorbikes dominate, okay? Most of this group, including myself, came here on motorbikes today, but probably the only person in the room who came on an electric motorbike was Burkhardt, okay? And there's one very simple reason for that, which is if you live in an apartment block, as most of us do, where are you going to charge your electric motorbike? Okay, the building's not going to let you charge it for free. Okay, you're not going to put it in the lift and take it up to the 10th floor and charge it then. once a week. So it's a real hassle. So therefore, people don't move to electric motorbikes. Now, this is where the idea of solar charging stations at workplaces has enormous potential. Okay, you think about all the industrial parks around Saigon. Okay, in Long An, in Bin Yuong, all those places. Okay, they have probably 2 or 3 hectares to each factory of motorbike parking. Now you put solar panels on those roofs. Okay, people can charge their motorbikes. Workers can charge their motorbikes once or twice a week. They don't typically travel very large distances, so they don't need to do it every day. If you've got a rich company like Intel or Apple, Microsoft, they might allow people just to do it for free in terms of corporate social responsibility. But other companies could actually charge using some kind of smart payment mechanism, which would pay back very quickly. So I think there's kind of enormous potential in cities such as Ho Chi Minh City, also Hanoi, probably Haiphong and Panta, and some of the smaller provincial cities as well. Okay. Final point, very quickly. Okay. One other element of reducing energy demand and carbon footprint is air conditioning. Okay. Now, you don't need me to tell you how much electricity air conditioners use. But the vast majority of air conditioners around which are used in Saigon and elsewhere are extremely inefficient. Okay? They are conventional air pressure conditioners which use nasty chemical refrigerants, and they're expensive. But there are a number of alternative designs of air conditioning which are basically water cooled. So what they use the water to cool the air, and then you also get hot water as a byproduct. So they're combined ones. These are proven technologies. They're manufactured in places like Australia by CSIRO, but also in Singapore by NUS Cool, by I think it's called Valerio in the US. There's quite a few companies doing it in the US. Okay, and so moving towards that could really reduce the carbon footprint, okay, in homes, but also in large office buildings. You can combine this kind of technology with, smart sensors and smart meters and automatic control systems. Okay. Now, I don't know why we're not doing this in RMIT, to be honest. Both this and the solar charging stations for motorbikes, but maybe that's something which you can help push for leadership on. But I think these 3 things would really make a big potential. I've said enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bob Bodge. So 3 things, right? So alternatives to alternatives, right? So the two-wheelers, and the third point was air conditioning, right? So many avenues. So we have seen that actually this is a whole can of worms, right? So we open it and then you can think about the demand side, about when do you charge your electric car, for example, from supply side to technologies. Very interesting topic. Right? So perhaps we have maybe 2 more minutes, and I would like to invite you sort of like ask the burning question that you may have. We have an eminent panel here, so this is the moment where you may want to ask. So what do I have to study, or what is the question sort of on your mind? Do you have any? Or online as well, maybe. One question.
So I've heard a lot of talking about installing brand new windmills and solar panels and EV electric charging systems in the future. So my question is, what are the costs of maintaining those systems that we install? And
Thank you very much. A great question. I think Mr. Tuan, you're very well placed. The question is, what's the cost of maintaining an offshore windmill, right? That's what you want.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I think because O&M is one of the very important for the offshore wind project, and we also think for offshore wind is not small for O&M in future, and that is get estimated for the total investment on the timeline maybe 30 to 50%. So very high, and we also learning in the future Vietnam can operating and maintenance for the offshore wind, and Phú Phong also one of the company together with Germany want to develop like that because a lot of job in the future. I think student and young generation, and if you interested in the wind and renewable energy and think for just and how to Vietnamese can do and Vietnamese can operating and maintenance and manufacturing, produce turbine, everything we can do by ourselves. That is my dream because China developed two biggest for 20 years ago by the high-speed train infrastructure, and so now they also develop the wind power and produce turbine, number one in the world, and half of the world by the high-speed train and by the turbine.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Just one sentence because he asked for the cost. Okay. The technology is very important. So when we put technology into the O&M, we can reduce significantly the cost. So there was solar for commercial and industrial solar. It costs around less than 5% of the total revenue. But if we do a large scale, for example, we do O&M for a solar farm of 250 megawatt, the cost is less than 3% of the total revenue. So that is the number. But the company like us, we try to reduce much more by applying automation technology and digital technology into the O&M activity.
Wonderful. Perhaps I wanted to. I think we are running out of time, and but I wanted to ask Professor Mahdi and our panelists to give each advice to you. So how to prepare for the future? What are the specific things that you would recommend to students to do for the future? And perhaps I will ask Professor Mahdi first. So if you have anything like maybe what should they study, what kind of skills, or what should they be sort of paying attention to? So I give you 30 seconds for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think when we have transport electrification,
I think you're on mute or something.
I'm not mute. I'm good. Do you hear me? Okay, great. I think when we electrify the transport, we have two elements here, transport and energy. So traditionally, these two sectors have been planned, studied separately, but I think it is time to co-plan for transport and energy systems together. So it might be something that the students can also study these sort of things together. So I think in the future, we really need to have co-planning of transport and electricity.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Professor Mahdi. Mr. Tuan, any tips for the students? What should they be excited about? What should they study? What should they worry about? Maybe something.
I also have just talked with the student, and because belong to the interesting renewable energy or wind power. So, have any question, and the student can ask. And because I think we can talking by the Vietnamese for easy understanding better than that. Có thể nói. Okay, so I can speak Vietnamese later.
30 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
You have to,
Yeah.
30 seconds. Yeah.
Đây là rồi. Thực ra là cái tiềm năng của chúng ta thì nói rồi.
Actually, I think that we have talked about the potential that we have and also the challenges. But talk is talk. Now we need to
He talking, and we also following for the policy for 10 years. Let up to now we can develop, and some years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and in the COVID time, and very difficulty for the construction of the project. And you see, some years ago, many projects in the COVID time still get the COD to operating the project, and that is the very, very difficult and in the construction with the project in the work. So now, I think I hope the IMIT and the students can learn more about the new industry and to contribute for the new industry of Vietnam. Also with very potential and very, very good in all the benefit from my country, our country, and how we together to develop, because we already have a network, more than 10,000 people in the renewable energy in Vietnam, and almost international, many country experts and engineers to together. Sometimes we have a seminar, and you can join with the seminar online, and you will get more knowledge and experience from the experts from overseas, Vietnamese overseas, and try to contribute for our country to green growth and net zero 2025 and Ho Chi Minh City 2020, 2040, 2040, Vietnam 2050, and conserve 2030. So that is the target. We must be at the target and get the result. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So now let's talk more action, right? This is what you're saying. All right, Mr. Pho, Mr. Phong, your idea for the students, what they should get excited about.
Okay, so you see the picture, more than 90% of the energy in 2050. Not only Vietnam, but also in many countries with renewable energy, including the wave power or any renewable energy that we just mentioned. So let's stay focused and learning to find your interest in that industry, not only technical. Okay, but also many kind of model. I showed you also financial model and learning about the business model that you can be involved in supporting, promoting the transition of like energy and also the transportation. So it's a huge market